Alf, why is everybody so shocked and worked up about CGC Bendgate? It's another issue with CGC, but guys, let's actually talk truth here. This isn't really all that shocking. I'll be right back. What's going on, Collectibles family, Collectibles friends? We are back again.
I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to see your faces here tonight.
I've owed you guys a video here on the second channel, and man, I've been watching some of this commentary around the CGC Bendgate. It's an issue where some of the CGC slabs are bending books. There's an issue here. CGC forums got a bunch of different stuff on it. It's all over the place. Every YouTuber on earth has made a video about it, except for me. Here I am. But I want to talk about just kind of have a larger discussion about it, because I don't really understand why, given what we saw at the end of last year, why this is some sort of a huge shock. And of course, what I mean by that is we had an issue last year where literally a guy was busted, guy or guys or whoever it was, were busted taking out the inner well, being able to weasel that comic book out and then put in a lower version, a lower quality version of that particular comic book, and then sell it as is. And then keep the other one, probably send it back in, get it graded. I mean, so there has been an issue with their slab for a long period of time. I'm going to show an example of one that I got in the mail. This is actually about 4 years ago. I bought the first appearance of Guardians of the Galaxy. I love this book, 5.0. I noticed a couple months after I bought it that there's actually a huge ding down here below, and it looks like, I don't know if it was resealed, it looks like there's some sort of issue going on with this thing. And I was thinking about this, do I try to somehow get a refund, or I send it back in for a reholder? And I just haven't bothered with it. I think it was 150 bucks or something for this book, and I just wanted to have one. But the case is clearly messed up. Now, when you hold a CGC case, well, I'm holding it here, do I feel comfortable that if I accidentally drop this on the ground, that it's not going to be chipped or broken? I mean, maybe it'll be fine. Maybe it'll be perfectly fine. Maybe if it falls on a soft surface, maybe it'll be okay. But these things are just way too flimsy. They're too fragile, especially considering what's inside. You know, this is a cheaper book in the comic book world at $150, but how many books that are thousands, 10,000s, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars sit in one of these puppies? And that was kind of my takeaway when we were talking about this going back at November, December, when that broke. There was a scandal of somebody essentially manipulating that case and fooling customers and really screwing around with a pretty decent sample size of comic books. He was the only one that was caught. Was there more? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe there was only one person that had ever done that before. But I've also shipped out a book where I had it packaged really well, and somehow, like, arrives at the other side. It was a Star Wars one. I think it was like a 9.0 going back 3 or 4 years ago. I bought and I was selling it, and it got smashed, you know, in the mail, you know, and that's not CGC's fault. But I mean, I had this thing pretty tightly wrapped, and I don't know how, whatever, maybe it would like fell off the mail truck or whatever, and the thing gets absolutely walloped. Now, we come to kind of present day. PSA has announced that they're entering the grading space for comic books. And I made a video going back a few weeks ago saying that, man, CGC's got to really pay close attention to this, or PSA is really going to eat their lunch. Now, let me also say this. On the trading card side, a few weeks ago, I entered into an agreement. I'm working with them as a PSA partner, so understand the bias here. I have that as a bias. I want to make sure that I put it out there on the trading card side, and I'm not going to pretend like that wouldn't bleed over into this as well. But here's what I want folks to understand is all of my comic books are in CGC holders. I am a big proponent, I'm a big advocate for third-party grading in general. I want there to be a few companies that are competing with one another. I don't want it to be PSA rules the world or CGC rules the world or any one of them to rule the world. I want it to be like different houses of Dune. You know, I want Atreides and Harkonnen, and I want the Orchid, what was the other one? The green one in the game. Orchids, it started with an O. Damn it, they were the sneaky ones. Anyway, I want to have a few companies that are just battling it out, that are all kind of having their own success and just fighting each other, creating better slabs, creating better tech, hiring better graders, training, you know, all that stuff. Because the end goal for me, and I think for a lot of collectors slash speculators slash investors, whatever you call yourself in the space, is that we want to have third-party grading that is extremely efficient and you can stand by it. You feel really good about it. Now, what's happened is of course, all of these collectibles markets have exploded over the last 5 years, and it's putting a lot of pressure on these companies because all the crooks have come out. All the crooks are out to take our money, to defraud the companies, defraud us, the customers, the collectors. They're out. They're out in full force, whether we're talking about comic books, games, trading cards, whatever it is. If there's a buck to be made, then the weasels come out and they try to make their money. And so the thing that really bothers me coming off of, we're 8-9 months away from having the discussion about the guy that was slipping books in and out and making a whole lot of money doing it. But the whole thing that I was saying going back 9-10 months ago was CGC needs a better holder. CGC needs a better holder. Now, PSA just unveiled their holder going back, about a month ago or so. And I've heard, I've never held one, but I know people that have, and they've said it's about twice the size. It's heavy duty, it's durable. And some people are like, man, I don't know how I feel about that. I like it. I want a more durable holder. I want something that you can't, that if I mail it away or if I drop it on the ground, I'm afraid that the whole thing's going to smash. And then what? I've got to have it like reholdered and regraded? No thanks. Now, I don't want something fragile, especially this is not an expensive comic book, but I do have more expensive comic books, and I want to make sure that they don't fall down somewhere. Like I'm afraid of it, so it's an issue. And so PSA has the ability, they kind of have the benefit of being able to see what's gone right for CGC and what hasn't gone right. And it's clear that what hasn't gone right is their current case. CGC's current case is not it. That cannot be their end game product for their case. I'll say it again. We need a better case. They're in their statement coming off of this Bendgate, whatever it was. Thank you for trusting us for the last 25 years. Grading your books. We're collectors too. That's all great. That's fine and dandy. People love the brand, but is if CGC doesn't get with the times, the name brand wears off after a while. Ford used to be the only one that sold cars in the United States, and I'm sure heading into the 70s and into the 80s, they were like, hey, bring it on. And then Toyota came and Honda came, and all of a sudden, the Japanese car makers, they were just outselling the American car makers. Why was that? Because they were putting out an inferior product. Now, you can argue against, is PSA a better grader than CGC and back and forth and this and that or whatever. But, if you don't have a case, I think this is kind of a baseline. If you don't have a slab that is a slab that people are confident in, then that's a big one. You can have the best graders in the world, but if you're putting it inside this tin can thing, whatever the hell, and it's not holding up, it doesn't matter. Again, you have the best graders in the world, but if your product there is not good enough, or if the competition has a better product than you, then look out, man. I've talked about it going back a few weeks again. I said, PSA is not to be messed with. PSA eats up competition like Galactus eats planets. You like that comic book analogy? I mean, on the trading card side, on the sports card side, second place grader to PSA, SGC. Highly reputable grader. Love them. They do a great job. Love Pete and those guys. Great company all in all, overall. Just fantastic. And they currently grade about 1/9 of the cards that PSA grades every month. And PSA, which is owned by Collectors Universe, Collectors, the company, Collectors bought SGC, bought the competition, bought second place. I mean, Collectors, the company, really owns grading. That's it. I mean, CGC grades trading cards as well, and so does Beckett, but we're talking about a lot smaller volume on the trading card side. So PSA, they are going to come in, for those that don't know PSA as well, that don't operate on the trading card side, they are not to be messed with. They're going to come in, they've got the resources. Nat Turner is really savvy, who runs Collectors. They have the pieces in place, and it might take a little bit of time, but it will come. It is inevitable, like Thanos snapping his fingers. It is absolutely inevitable they are coming. One thing I've heard too is, secondary market prices are going to drive this. Well, that is true, absolutely. But I'll point to video game grading. Video game grading, really, you have VGA, and then you had WATA entered the space. WATA is also owned by Collectors, that owns PSA. And then, guess what happened? A couple years after WATA, CGC enters the space. They've got great graded games. They've got great cases. And guess what? On the secondary market, They're very comparable to WATA and to VGA. A lot of times WATA and CGC outsell VGA. It really just depends. But my point there is that whole secondary market thing, CGC closed the gap on WATA in less than 12 months. So, is it going to take years for that to happen on the comic book side? Maybe it will. Maybe it'll take 3, 4, 5 years for PSA to catch up on the secondary market compared to CGC, but it could also be a lot faster than that. And stuff like this is exactly how that can happen. So again, I don't understand really why everyone is so shocked, so absolutely surprised at this when CGC's holder, they should have already been on top of it. I really hope that after PSA announces the more durable slab and then also just showing the inefficiencies in the current slab, you can't tweak this. I don't see this as being something you can tweak. I think it's time to go back to the drawing board, have more of a long-term game plan if you're CGC, and think, you know what? We need security in our slab. We need to actually take this seriously. Not a little tweak, not a little like, we're going to switch a couple things around. A serious rehaul of the thing. Just like in automobiles, we got to rehaul the engine. Like the competition, they're building better vehicles. It's kind of a similar thing. And I understand vehicles and grading slabs. It's not exactly the same, but to me, it's the same sort of mindset of you sit on your laurels. Look at what happened with Beckett Grading Services on the trading card side. Sat on their laurels and were like, hey, we're Beckett. We've got the Beckett name. Well, now they're dead last in the top 4 grading companies in our space, and they're not close. Like they're really not close to third, and they're not even in the same galaxy as first. So, all right, guys, that's all I've got today. Let me know your thoughts on this. Are we going to see something out of CGC? Are we going to see some movement, or is it going to be the PSA show in 2025 moving forward? Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.